Welcome to part 2, or round 2. Okay, so this is what happened. The reason why there's another part to this is because I pressed the wrong button again. If you remember from my quinoa burger videos, I had to make 2 parts because I pressed the wrong button. I swear one of these days I'm going to get a hang of this. Until then, you have to wait patiently, okay? I'm still new to this, okay? So, I made a new video, only for it to not actually save, so I have to do this again. Story of my life. But anyway, I'm going to give you guys what you asked for, and I shall deliver. So, part 1 is already uploaded on YouTube. Please go see it. Please like it. Please comment on it. Please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. So, I think I left off at the point where I was showing you guys pictures of the last house on Holland Island. Okay, so that collapsed in 2010. Well, and I was talking to you guys about the link between Stephen White and Effie Wilson and all this other stuff, and how Effie Wilson's epitaph comes into play. Well, I didn't mention it in the last video, I don't think. I hope I didn't. But her epitaph was eerily a prophecy, basically. Because it's like, forget me not is all I ask. Now, the villagers did not know, or the islanders, I should say, did not know Holland Island was sinking until 1914. That is 21 years after Effie Wilson died. And it's just eerie. It's just eerie how she would put that on her epitaph. Because here's the thing. The island completely sank in 2014. 4 years after the last house on Holland Island sank. So in the space of 100 years, the island sank from when the islanders knew that the island was sinking. But before all that happened, Stephen White wanted to try to save the island, so, you know, because Effie Wilson's epitaph, even though it wasn't prophetic to him, or actually it was prophetic to him, what the hell am I talking about? It tugged on his heartstring, because it is heartbreaking that this girl's island, this girl's home, is now beneath the waves. And no one won't remember her because of it. So that's part of the reason why I started the fan page on Facebook for her. So people won't forget her. Her island may be gone. Her grave may be beneath the sea, but she'll continue as long as I'm around, and other people help remember her, remember the islanders. I mean, yeah, civilizations come and go. They can be lost, but as long as we have the technology and all, we can keep her alive, especially since she pleaded to not be forgotten. So Holland Islands sank because of erosion that was made worse by rising sea levels that are associated with the sinking of the lands caused by, this is going to be fun to say, isostatic substance, or subsidence, how the hell you say that. Basically, it's the Earth's crust that's like this. And I think the reason why it's like this is because it has something to do with the impact of the bolite that hit 35.5 million years ago. But that's not the reason for all the islands in the Chesapeake that are sinking. That's not the case for Smith Island, and that's not the case for Tangier Island, just Holland Island in particular. So, also, the Holland Island was made out of clay and sand. which are easily erodable. And that's the case for, like, all the islands in the Chesapeake is they're made of that. And that doesn't hold up well during erosion. It didn't help the western side of the island. The part of the island that sunk the fastest, that had most of the homes on, because they were exposed to the waves in the bay and made it more prone to erosion. And that's basically the part of the island that was actually struck first and began to erode away the fastest compared to the other parts of the island. Holland Island has basically become a symbol for the future of other islands in the Chesapeake, like Smith Island and Tangier Island, because Holland Island was once inhabited by these people, and they had to abandon it because the island was rapidly eroding, and eventually the island succumbed to being, submerged. Smith Island is the only inhabited island on the Maryland side, and Tangier is the only inhabited island on the Virginian side. I'm just going to talk about Smith Island the most, and then I'll say something about Tangier too. With Smith Island, excuse me, I almost burped. Excuse me. Brief history with Smith Island. British settlers came there in the 17th century, and they arrived from Cornwall and Dorset, England. Smith Island doesn't have any bridges to the mainland or an airport. The only way you can get to Smith Island is by boat. There are passenger-only ferries that connect to the island from all kinds of ports, but they're mostly seasonal. The only port that's all year round is the one out of Crestfield. The Smith Islanders have a relic accent, which they have preserved the speech pattern from the original English settlers that settled there 400 years ago. Because the rest of us don't have that accent, by the way. We don't have that accent. Mainland Marylanders sound so much different than the people at Smith Island do. Because their accent is the same as it was when people came to the island 400 years ago, which I think is awesome, Smith Island is also inhabited by one of the region's oldest English-speaking communities, which goes back to what I say, they have a relic accent, sounding the same as the original British settlers did. Their local dialect, to continue on their accent, is like those from the West Country of England and Cornwall. Smith Island is known for their Smith Island cake. It has 8 to 10 layers. No, 8 to 12 layers, I'm sorry. It's an 8 to 12 layer cake, and there's a lot of variations, but the most common is yellow cake and cooked chocolate frosting. I've tried to make my own Smith Island cake, and I failed miserably, but that'll be for another video. But it's common for people on Smith Island to make that cake. But the Smith Island cake became Maryland's official state dessert back in 2008, and I think the major reason why is that Smith Island is slowly sinking. I should say slowly sinking, it's rapidly sinking, but not as bad as Holland Island. Holland Island rapidly sank, and it's the same thing for Tangier. Smith Island has been sinking in size over the last few centuries because of low elevation and storm erosion. The island has lost over 3,300 acres, which is 13 kilometers. I don't know what to refer to as squared, I guess. I don't know. Of wetlands from the erosion and post-glacial subsidence in the Chesapeake Bay over the last 150 years. Basically what's going on is there's two different types of post-glacial phenomenon. There's one called subsidence, I guess, which is basically where if a glacier goes over land, the land that it went over sinks, continues to sink. Sometimes the land that it goes over goes back up, which is post-glacial rebound. And they used to think that was the situation for Smith Island, but that's not really the case. It's more like the land is continuing to sink because of the glacier that went over there a hell of a long time ago. The island is currently putting in restoration efforts to save the island. Like, they've restored 1,900 acres, which is 8 kilometers with the little 2, of submerged aquatic vegetation. I can't talk. I apologize. Submerged aquatic vegetation, and restoring 240 acres, which is 1 kilometer with the little 2, of wetlands to prevent the island from being lost to erosion. I'll eventually show you guys a picture of both Smith and Tangier, and you can see why people are worried about them sinking. Tangier in Virginia is expecting the same future as Smith Island that Holland Island met just back in 2014. And it will definitely face the same future as Holland Island if nothing is done to prevent the erosion, like Smith Island's trying to do right now. Tangier Island, I think, is in much more peril than Smith Island because the island has lost 67% of their landmass since the 1850s and is predicted to sink in the next 50 years if nothing is done to save the island from sinking. And this is Tangier we're talking about. With Smith Island, they're predicting between 50 to 100 years if they don't start doing anything about it now. But I think Stephen White can testify that you can do all you can to try to prevent the island from sinking, but you can only go up against Mother Nature so much. So let me show you a pic of the two islands so you can see how bad it is. There we go. Okay. So this is a picture of both Smith Island and Tangier. This one right here, that is Tangier. Do you see it? And then right over here, although compass the rest of the thing, right here, down here, that is Smith Island. And as you can see, both islands are rapidly eroding. I don't know how it was with Holland Island, but it seems that Holland Island was just losing coastline after coastline over the last 100 years. Well, it seems like the water is literally cutting through both islands with Smith Island and Tangier. But I can understand why they say Tangier looks like it's going to be lost in 50 years, because that looks more eroded away than Smith Island does at this point. So, we'll see. I hope you learned something from this video. I came across this only a few years ago, believe it or not. I mean, I know, there's my bra strap sewing again. Or maybe my hair can hide it. I didn't come across all this until just a few years ago. And I came across it because I was visiting my family in Maryland, and everybody had gone to bed. I was not sleepy yet, and I decided to watch something on PBS or the Maryland local station, which is, I think, Maryland Public Television or something. And I watched programs on there to find something to help me fall asleep, like find someone who narrates that has a soothing voice like Bob Ross, while learning something at the same time. And I came across a program called The Secrets of the Chesapeake Bay, and they talked about Holland Island as well as Smith and Tangier. And the thing that stuck out to me the most was the last house on Holland Island just above the water. It just looked like it was rising out of the water during that show, and I thought it looked so cool. So I decided to do more research about it, and as well as Smith Island and stuff. So that's how I learned about all this. I didn't learn this in school or anything like that, and even though I'm from Maryland, I never heard about it until I watched that show. So I'm kind of hoping that not only did I inform you guys about this, but also to bring to your attention that there are places sinking, whether because of erosion caused by storms or something else, rising sea levels, or just because there's a post-glacial rebound or there I go again, fucking that up. You know, the land going down because a glacier went over it a long ass time ago. So, I know it seems impossible to go against something that's from nature, like, especially with isostatic subsidence, which is the land on the Earth's crust going down, and I think that's because of the impact of the meteor a long time ago, and you know, all this other stuff. But I think we can work on trying to help the environment out, you know, by recycling, by trying to lead a clean life. You don't have to do everything, but just start with recycling. I mean, I've been recycling for a long time. So, you know, just help reduce the greenhouse gases. And I know climate change and all this has natural cycles. I study natural disasters for the fun of it. I know volcanoes can cause climate change and stuff. But we can help curb our end of it. And even if the natural end continues, we can still cut our rate of it to make it decrease a little bit. But I know it can be fruitless and stuff. But I think the other thing that gets me too is it just seems heartbreaking to know that you'll lose your home or the land that you were born and raised on. I mean, I was devastated when my old elementary school was torn down a few years ago. Because I'm like, oh, one of these days I'm going to show the kids where I went to school at. Because I didn't go to school anywhere in Sweden. Like, they're going to go to school in Sweden. I did get the chance to take them to Tulip Grove, which is the school that got torn down. Before it got torn down, as far as we know, it was closed for renovations. And then several months after I left, they tore it down. So that was heartbreaking. So just knowing how heartbreaking it is to lose something that is from your childhood is probably 10 times more when you lose the house that you grew up in, that you lived in most of your life, or not just your house, but like the town you were a part of for so long. I mean, yeah, that becomes a part of you. That helps you with your identity and stuff. So I'm hoping, other than trying to bring awareness about these islands to, you know, maybe help reduce greenhouse gases and recycle and treat the environment better, also maybe to help these people relocate eventually, because they're going to need it, and just be there to help them through this when it does happen, because it's heartbreaking when you think about it. So that's all I have for this video. If you liked it, give it a like. If you like to see more vids from me, please subscribe. I would be delighted. I hope I wouldn't ramble so much. I had to make this again, so yeah. Also, a question. Have you ever lost something from your childhood or where you grew up at? Could be your house, could be a mall, could be your school. How did you feel after that? Were you devastated? Were you relieved? I don't know. So leave me a comment about that. Leave me a comment how you thought about this. I'm sorry the video could be... I know the video needs to be a lot better, but I'm getting there. I'm still new to this, okay? So, thank you. Bye-bye.